Yo, what's up guys? So I just want to make this explanation video of our world's robot Peaches so you guys can understand more of the design decisions and how we made this robot. So this robot, it was a conveyor flywheel, and we chose this because at States we had a really bad experience with our puncher. The biggest bird is actually right here. It's a bit destroyed but still intact, and it just didn't do very well because all the fields were different and really dirty, so that you couldn't, but with a puncher you couldn't adjust the tension of the rubber bands on the fly, and it just didn't have enough power really to shoot into the fours, and you can see that in all of our States runs. So if we take a look here, it's a flywheel. We chose this because it was really easy to adjust the velocity, and then we didn't really want to do a traditional seesaw because at the time seesaws were kind of slow and difficult to tune, so we decided to use a conveyor. And the concept basically is we have a conveyor that spins upward like that, and then discs would be in here and they would go up, discs would go up and down this ramp right here, and then they would go down the ramp and in the flywheel where they would get shot out. So for the flywheel right here, it's actually pretty standard. We have 2-motor 10-to-1 gear ratio. We didn't really have any problems with this at Worlds because at all of our matches the velocity was on like 50%, so 10-to-1 really didn't matter. And then right here, this was actually a really heavy flywheel. We have one axle that goes all the way across, and I'm surprised it didn't bend as much as it has. We have 7 tires actually on this to make it really wide, and then 3 flywheel weights, 1 on this side, 2 on this side. You can see actually there's a gap in between these 2 flywheel weights, and that was because extension just extended, but if there wasn't a gap, the flywheel weights would hit this beam, which is really annoying, so I had to put a gap in them. And then also this gap between these 2, the flywheel weight and the tires, was great because then the purple wheel could fit right here, so that we didn't have to line the purple up really weirdly. It could just be really easy to align, and basically in the center you can see our purple wheel is right here, so it's really easy to align. Okay, let me get the robot back up. So if I turn the flywheel on right here, this is our button for the flywheel. So if you press it once, it turns on. It turns on to 100% at default. If you press it again, it goes to the shooting velocity, which we can preset or tune to be able to match. So I had this macro right here. If I press this button and these buttons at the same time, each time I pressed it, it would go down by 1 velocity. Originally, it was up or down by 5% velocity, but in the finals, we really didn't need 5, so I changed it to 1. You can check, I could decrease that and increase it. So that was really nice to have that variability so we could tune for each field. And if you press it again, it's 100, press it again, it's shooting velocity, which is really nice. And literally the day before Worlds, my teammate IU, she said we should do a flywheel PID. So I just hastily coded one, and I guess it worked pretty well, except I didn't tune it very well. So this one right now, I'm pretty sure it's just at a P loop instead of PID. I turned off I and D because it was the day before Worlds and I didn't have time to tune. But the flywheel, it didn't fail us at Worlds. It did very well, and I'm really glad that I did because flywheel is on top, puncher L. So now I guess moving on to the purple neck. So it's just chained to the flywheel right here. I used the big sprockets because I just felt like they had less friction. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know why I felt that, but it worked okay. And we just have this pulley wheel right here, the rubber band on it. I forgot that there were tires that you could stretch onto those. So yeah. And also there was no way to turn off the flywheel. Basically for us, the flywheel just turned off when you hit the extension, and there's just no way to turn it off, so I had to restart the code every time. And then if I drive here, you can see we have these aligners right here. They're just angle beams that help align the purple neck. So if I come around right here, you can see that even if I'm not perfectly aligned with the purple wheel would slide into those angle beams and it would automatically align itself. So that you could have a bit of error. And this is what I was talking about. The purple wheel can basically just slide in that gap so that we didn't have to like line up like flying cheese or Samuel, where we didn't have to line up like this. It's just much more convenient. And that's really one of the things I want to change with the rebuild of this robot. So then, moving on to the balloon mechanism, it's a A39 caution tape, or drum roll please, 4-bar blue pull down mech. So just pulls the balloon dispenser down. It's this button right here, which is a hold button, and then when you press the up button, it automatically returns to the same position. With the down button, you can control it like that. So the balloon mechanism was actually, it was pretty long, just for that extra speed on pulling down the balloon. You can see right here. I built this thing in like 2 minutes. It's just a 1:5 gear ratio on these, I think it's like 2x14 beams. And then I think my favorite part about this balloon mechanism is that you see the part with the hook can actually hinge, and it's rubber banded just like that. And we did this because if you look at the balloon dispenser, I think the issue with most of these pull down mechanisms is that when you turn the balloon mechanism, this part which you're hooking onto is getting closer to you. It's getting closer to you. But since you have a 4-bar for your pull down, the 4-bar is also going this way. So basically, when you tried to pull down, these two parts were trying to push close to each other, and it just didn't really work well. So we started out, actually in the first video with this robot, it was a fixed angle, and then when we just went down, went like that. You can see like it actually kind of chipped up the robot like that, and we just didn't really want that. So basically one of the solutions to this is you angle this hook slightly so that basically only this little pin is hooking onto it. But the issue is that if your angle is too steep, you're just gonna miss the dispenser entirely. So it's kind of like drum roll please, they just found the perfect balance of angle. But what we did is we tried to have the best of both worlds, so that when it starts like this, you have lots of room for error where it's really long and you can still grab onto it. However, when you actually went to grab it, it would angle down a bit more, and then it would just be the little hook part, and the discs wouldn't get caught on it as it slid down. And then I just had the license plates right here to act like a wall to guide the discs down. Just a goofy license plate placement, but it worked okay. So now I guess moving on to the back here. Here is our ratchet mechanism. So this part is chained to the conveyor. So when I spin the conveyor, the shoot button, which is this one right here, the yellow mechanism actually flips down because this ratchet right here, you can see it spinning. When I reverse, it grips, bites, and goes back up. And I just have these two buttons right here. And that just do that for me. And it worked really well. The ratchet didn't have any issues. I think the whole robot just didn't have many issues except for in the practice match. And we just got pretty unlucky in finals. So yeah. The passive yellow back here was also really cool because it was unique, where we had a back entry yellow. So give me 1 second, get some discs. So when we would align in the middle, which is actually kind of difficult to do because it was a long robot and we had to try to avoid hitting the yellow button back there, but we only had one match where I sold and hit that. So when you're shooting in the middle, the yellow would just flip down, and when I was ready, I would align and just go for it, and the discs would just flip perfectly into the conveyor. So let's see that again. So we would come here about right like that. We do this. Yellow would flip down, and we go like that. And passive yellow, it basically never failed us except for in finals when it mattered, which is really sad. And then like that, and we start conveying the discs down. So passive yellow and conveyor all work really well at Worlds. In our practice match, actually, it jammed a little bit, but it never happened again, which was really nice. And then when we would reverse that, you'd get out of the way so that we could get the blue. But when we needed it, they would just flip back out like that. It's really nice because a lot of the Taiwan teams, their yellow mechanism, they had the passive yellow as well, but they couldn't flip it up and down at whenever they wanted. I could do that so that whenever I wanted, I could flip it down, get the yellow, and just drive off. That was really nice, a really unique mechanism, and I loved it. It was probably my favorite part of the robot. And then let's take a look at the drive base right here, because this one is also very unique. It's a very long, complicated drivetrain. So you can see there's like 7 gears on each side, and the input shaft is actually this green gear right here, which is really high up, and it's still a 2-to-1 gear ratio, but because of how long the gear train was, it was actually a bit slower than normal ones. And I wanted to have a base like this because if you can see, the drive motors are actually located inside there. So right there under the cables is the drive motor, and the other one is right there on the other side. I don't know if you can see it, but I just wanted to have this in there so that I wouldn't have anything in the bottom, and I could put the brain here for better center of gravity, and also because I didn't have anywhere else really to mount the brain very well. So if I just get all the discs out of the flywheel here, you can, I think you'll be able to see the drive motors better. So they are just inside of there. And one issue that this introduced was that the gap between the drive motor, and the ram, I guess you can't really see it well, but if 2 discs went in at once, they would kind of get stuck like that and not be able to pass through. So we just needed a really consistent and good filter for that. So here is our filter. It's just a beam with a little rail on it, and I guess it worked pretty well, and it didn't really jam at Worlds. And then ramp is pretty standard, just a beam ramp, and the brain is mounted on the back of it. The transition here, actually, I was changing this on the day before Worlds as well. Basically, it has this beam right here so that discs don't come out the back. Because one of the issues I had was, since I didn't have much space for the discs to drop down, some of them would start falling out the back here. So I just made this transition ramp really shallow and out of plastic sheets. So it'd be really nice. And if you see, there's actually a divider in there as well, so that the disc would shoot out side by side, which made it a lot better. But yeah, and taking another look in here, get all these discs out. You might be able to see, you can't really see it, but right here I have this beam that just guides the discs more inward, or else it would hit the flywheel weight, which we didn't really want. And here's our standoff setup once again. It worked pretty well, but we were still tuning it a lot, even at Worlds. Here's the original prototype that we tuned it on. You can see we have the 2 motors set up, a bunch of stuff there. But I'll show you guys the shooting later, but this setup was just meant to be really consistent and have no velocity drop, and also try to skip the disc a little bit, but it didn't work that well. And then last thing is the extension. So this actually isn't the same extension as the Goofy Eye extension video I posted. So in that one, it was actually the thing holding the extension is actually geared to the blue mechanism, and that's just really inconsistent. So basically now, I just have this arm that holds the extension down, and it's rubber banded down. When I let it go, the extension releases. And so how I activate it is there's this linkage right here that's connected to the blue, so that when I put the blue up, this part also lifts up, and when the blue went high enough, it would lift up the arm and extension would go. Our button for this was actually really weird. So when I press both the joysticks at one time, the blue would go up and it would extend. And this was just so that we wouldn't like accidentally extend in the middle of a match, which never happened, thankfully. It's really nice, but it was definitely hard to get used to pressing both joysticks. And so that was also this extension right here. It's a pretty standard just linkage extension. It was really bendy, which I didn't like, but we didn't have too many issues with that at Worlds. And to reset it, it was really simple. I like this one because it was really compact. I feel like it was even more compact than just like a scissor lift, because you only have half the amount of beams and you can pack them in tighter. So that's why I decided to use that over a scissor lift. And I just have this wheel on the end with a pulley, a rope on it. And then why don't I just go through some of the controls I have for the flywheel here. So first thing, this button to turn on the flywheel, and 100, you press this, 100, that's pretty normal. But then right here, we have buttons for shooting. So when I was shooting on the side, if I just turn it off real quick. If I was shooting on the side, I would press this button, and what it did was it momentarily slowed down the flywheel a bit so that we wouldn't overshoot on the side. And then it would increase the flywheel velocity once again. So if I was shooting on the side, I would shoot and then press the button so that we wouldn't overshoot on the sides. We also had this button to shoot in the middle, where it would gradually increase the velocity, but we didn't really use that because we didn't feel it was needed. And right here is my shift key. So when you press this, these two become the up velocity, down velocity buttons. So you would go up one, down one, down one, down one. And right here, you could have your, if you let go of this button, you would have your normal controls. So side shooting, middle shooting, this one's to toggle the velocity. And everything else is pretty normal, blue, shooting. So yeah. So that's our World's Robot Peaches. Really solid robot. I don't think I would have made any changes to it. It's really cool. Did not fail us at Worlds, and it was just a really nice robot. Much better than Biggest Bird over there.